You know, in early childhood education, cultural differences between families and educators, they're not just possible, they're pretty much guaranteed to happen. But what if we flipped the script on that? What if we looked at those clashes not as problems, but as these amazing opportunities for growth? That's what we're going to dive into. A toolkit for turning those really challenging conversations into much stronger partnerships. And you know, it's actually kind of a relief to hear that even experts, like author Janet Gonzalez-Mena, feel this way. It makes sense, right? When someone's approach to childcare clashes with your own deeply held beliefs, that defensive feeling is, well, it's totally normal. And that right there really gets to the heart of the issue. That very human, very emotional reaction we all have. So this is the fundamental truth we have to start with. These conflicts, they are not a sign that someone has failed, not at all. They're the natural result of caring adults bringing their own unique, totally valid, and culturally rooted ideas about what's best for a child into the very same space. So the goal isn't to eliminate conflict. That's impossible. It's about learning to navigate it with skill and, of course, with respect.
Okay, so let's first explore why these conflicts happen. What is going on beneath the surface when a simple disagreement about, say, feeding or napping suddenly feels like such a huge deal? Well, it all comes down to how our own backgrounds shape our entire view of the world.
We're not just talking about a simple difference of opinion here. A cultural conflict is a disagreement where both sides are operating from these deeply ingrained values about how to raise a child. It's about independence versus interdependence, individual achievement versus the good of the group. It's the really big stuff.
And this gets to the core of the challenge. For most of us, our cultural norms don't feel like a set of choices. They just feel like the correct, common-sense way to do things. So when we see a different approach, our brain can interpret it not just as different, but as wrong. Just recognizing that unconscious automatic bias in ourselves is the first huge step toward having a more open conversation.
So, what do we do about it? How do we build toward a solution? Well, the most effective way to manage conflict is actually to try and prevent it from escalating in the first place. Now, this isn't about avoiding the hard topics, but about building a foundation of trust and understanding before any disagreements pop up.
This points to a crucial shift in mindset. We have to prioritize understanding over immediate problem solving. Before we can find a solution, we have to be genuinely willing to listen, to learn about a family's history, their values, and what they want for their child. It's about building that relationship first and foremost.
And this is where we can start to reframe behaviors we might otherwise misinterpret. For example, a parent who seems a bit disengaged might actually be showing deep respect for the teacher's authority by not interfering. A family that feels a little guilty about needing childcare might interact differently than one who sees it as a totally standard choice. These aren't excuses, they're vital context.
And this is the key question that moves us from just being passively aware to proactively engaging. It's an invitation to open up a dialogue. So instead of making assumptions, we can ask questions like, what was school like for you when you were growing up? Or what are the most important things you want your child to learn with us?
But what happens when a conflict does arise? I mean, prevention is great, but we still need a practical tool for that moment. And that brings us to a simple but really powerful 3-step framework for navigating these conversations in a constructive way.
This framework comes from the Program for Infant/Toddler Caregivers, or PITC. Acknowledge, ask, and adapt. It's super easy to remember and incredibly effective because it transforms what could be a big argument into a collaborative problem-solving session. So, step 1 is all about setting the right tone. It can be as simple as saying, I've noticed we seem to have different ideas about mealtime. I really want to understand your perspective so we can figure this out together. See, this isn't about admitting you're at fault. It's about acknowledging a shared problem and a shared goal.
All right, step 2, ask. This is the information gathering stage. The goal here is pure curiosity. You are not debating, you are learning. You're just asking open-ended questions to truly understand the why behind a family's practice or their request. It's all about seeking to understand before you seek to be understood.
And finally, after you've acknowledged the issue and asked enough questions to really understand the other perspective, you can move to adaptation. This is where you look for that common ground. What do you both want for the child? From that shared goal, you can negotiate and find a creative solution that respects both perspectives.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine a little guy named Junior is new to your center. At home, he's always fed on his mother's lap, wrapped up tightly in a blanket. But at the center, the policy is for children to sit in a high chair and learn to feed themselves. So now Junior is distressed and the educator is concerned. This is a classic cultural conflict.
Before we move on, just take a second to think. What would your gut reaction be here?
Would it be to defend the program's policy, to explain the importance of self-feeding skills, or something else?
So using that ask step, here are the kinds of questions an educator could think about. Is the family's way doing actual harm? Probably not. Is our high chair policy essential for every single child always? Maybe not. Could there be a middle ground? Maybe Junior starts on a lap and then transitions to the chair? See how these questions open up possibilities beyond a simple right versus wrong debate?
Now, navigating these conflicts doesn't always lead to a perfect, happy compromise. It's really important to have realistic expectations about the different ways these conversations can end.
When you have these conversations, there are really 4 ways it can go. Sometimes you'll find a beautiful compromise, a mutual resolution. Other times, after listening, the program might realize its policy is a bit too rigid and decide to adapt. Occasionally, the family may see the value in the program's approach and choose to adapt. And, sometimes no resolution is reached, and you might have to agree that the program just isn't the right fit. And all of those can be valid outcomes.
But this is the guiding star through any conflict. Every single decision, every compromise, and every policy should be measured against this one question. It helps move the conversation away from my way versus your way and toward our shared commitment to this child.
So, if you take away just 3 things from this explainer, let it be these. First, always start from the assumption that families are acting out of love and a desire to do what's best. Second, replace judgment with curiosity. And third, do the important work of understanding your own cultural biases and emotional triggers.
And that's the question I want to leave you with. This isn't just theory, it's a practical toolkit. So thinking about your own context, how can acknowledging, asking, and adapting help you build stronger partnerships and create a truly inclusive and equitable environment for every single child and family you serve?